All right, so Mississippi State head coach Zach Arnett has been fired. So today I'm going to give you 10 candidates to keep an eye on during the coaching search. Join me down in the comment section, though. Let me know who you think they should hire, who you think they will hire. Let me know down in the comment section. All right, so with that out of the way, let's go ahead and get started on this thing. Now, some of these names are realistic. Some of them aren't. Some of them I don't think realistically probably will be interested in the job. Mississippi State is kind of a lower tier Power 5 job, but it is in the SEC, so it kind of holds some weight over, some of the other jobs. So I wouldn't be surprised if they kind of make a run at a Power 5 coach. Think like last time, they hired Mike Leach away from Washington State. If you can get something like that, get a successful coach that's at like a lower tier Power 5 job, you might could pull one in. But running down the list of candidates here. First up, we've got Jamey Chadwell. He's the Liberty head coach and was the Coastal Carolina head coach before he went to Liberty. He's got them rolling right now. He's undefeated, and he's won everywhere he's been. He was good at Coastal Carolina as well. If you remember during the COVID year, 2020, he had them and Grayson McCall. He had them undefeated. They went to BYU to play Zach Wilson. Lost that game. That was their only loss of the year, I think. So Jamey Chadwell really wins wherever he goes. He's a candidate on some other coaching searches that I've seen, but really – this is probably his job to lose. I think he's probably the best candidate you could pull in. He doesn't, like I say, he doesn't really lose wherever he's been. And every name on here I've seen referenced somewhere in some form or fashion that they have been looking into them. Like I said, I'll tell you whenever I don't think it's a realistic possibility, but Jamey Chadwell I think would be a perfect fit for Mississippi State. Willie Fritz, Tulane head coach. He's had a lot of success at Tulane. He turned down some jobs last year, but I think that was because they had a lot returning this year. Obviously, they're probably going to represent the group of 5 this year if they win out. Their only loss this year is the Ole Miss. So he's done a pretty good job. The only problem with him is he's a little older, so you're probably not going to get him for 20 years, and obviously that's probably not going to happen with anybody you hire. That's not going to happen. But if you got the right guy, you should just get him regardless. But Willie Fritz would be probably a good coach. I don't see him leaving for this. I think he'll wait till a job like kind of in the Big 12, SEC, lower SEC region opens up. But wouldn't be a bad get, because he's down in Louisiana. So I wouldn't be surprised if he takes like a Texas job, somewhere, not Texas, but somewhere in that area, All right, next up, Tom Herman. Now, he hasn't had a lot of success this year at FAU, at Florida Atlantic, but if they could somehow pull him, I think he's a high-quality head coach. Had a lot of success at Houston and really did pretty good at Texas. He kind of was dealt a bad hand. He beat Georgia at Texas. I mean, how many people at Texas can say that? He kind of had the short end of the stick, kind of trying to make up for the ground that Charlie Strong lost for Texas, So I think Tom Herman will be a good get. He, like I said, hasn't had the most successful year at Florida Atlantic, but you can do worse than Tom Herman. All right, next up here, Charles Huff, Marshall head coach. Up until this year, Marshall was actually pretty bad this year, but before that, if we're going off last year, I would have probably said this is the guy for the job. He's got Mississippi State ties. He coached for Mississippi State a few years back, and he's had some success as Marshall head coach. He knocked off Notre Dame last year, if you remember that. And his name is kind of associated with a lot of these jobs. He hasn't got any of them, but he gets interviews for all these jobs. So eventually one's going to pay off. And this one he kind of has ties to, like I said. So this would kind of be the one that fits. So he's a name to keep an eye on that's kind of going to slide under their radar, but he's a name I would watch in this coaching search. Next up, Jon Sumrall, Troy head coach. He's got Troy like on the borderline top 25 this year. They're having a great year. They're like right in my top 30 in my AG poll. Jon Sumrall done a good job. He wouldn't be a bad hire at all. All right, this one, Dan Mullen. Obviously, he's had a lot of success as a head coach. He's not coaching right now. He's in the booth. Great Mississippi State head coach. Had them ranked number 1 when he had Dak back in the day. Didn't have much success at Florida, compared to the Mississippi State. I don't think this is a realistic one. I don't think he's coming out of the booth. But when they interviewed him, he did say never say never. So you never know. But I don't see him coming back. Now, if he wants to come back, this is the guy. If he says I'm coming back, then, this is who you go get, Dan Mullen, no doubt. But I don't think that's realistic. Next up, Glenn Schumann, Georgia defense coordinator. I don't think this is the route you go because this is kind of the route you just went with Zach Arnett, a coordinator with no experience. And Glenn Schumann's going to get a head coaching job at some point, but I don't think it's Mississippi State. I just don't think he's the right fit. Rhett Lashlee, SMU head coach. I'm not sure he leaves from Mississippi State. I have seen his name thrown around a little bit. Coming from, he was a coordinator in the SEC for a little bit, but I'm not sure he leaves SMU. They're headed to the ACC, so they're kind of moving up to the big boy leagues now, Power 5. And he probably has more resources there than he would at Mississippi State, to be honest. So I don't see him leaving. All right, then these next two are kind of former head coaches that you could keep an eye on. Manny Diaz, Penn State DC. He's also been the Texas defense coordinator. He's also been the Mississippi State defense coordinator. That's where his ties come in here. And former Miami head coach. Didn't have a lot of success in Miami, but then again, who has lately? I don't think you hire him because, like I said, he hadn't had the most success as a head coach, but he does have those Mississippi State ties. So similar to Charles Huff, Manny Diaz is a name I would keep an eye on here. All right, last but not least, Barry Odom. I have seen his name thrown around again. He was the head coach of Missouri. He's currently the head coach at UNLV. They've had some success this year. I think they've got like 2 losses, so pretty good year. I think they'll get somebody besides Odom, but if he's interested, they may listen. So if we're going to rank these guys in who I think is realistic candidate, like I said, if Dan Mullen says he's coming back, that's the guy, but I don't think he is. Who I would get personally, Jamey Chadwell. I think he's the best coach on this list. Has had success everywhere he's went. I think he would be a great fit kind of in that area too. Now, the names I would keep an eye on, I think they hired Jamey Chadwell, but the names to keep an eye on are Charles Huff from Marshall. Got those Mississippi State ties, and then Manny Diaz, Penn State defense coordinator. Similar, he has those Mississippi State ties. It really depends if they're going to go with those ties or kind of go out of the box. Some people like to hire within, not exactly within, but kind of, within their own personnel. Like, oh yeah, he's coached here before. He's one of us. Think like Duke basketball. They kind of do that, like one of the guys. I don't think Diaz or Huff is as good of a coach as Jamey Chadwell, but, like I said, if they want to hire within, don't be surprised if they do that. So as far as what I think, Dan Mullen is your clear first choice if he says yes, but I don't think he will. Jamey Chadwell, and then we got Diaz or Huff. I think that's the route they go. If somehow Tom Herman could swing this gig, I think that would be a nice hire for him too. But I don't think that'll happen. Let me know down in the comment section. Who do you think they'll hire? Who do you think they will hire? Let me know. Comment down below, like this video, and make sure to subscribe if you are new here.